토크살롱 시청자 여러분 안녕하세요. 서울 스피커스 뷰로의 알렉스입니다. 요즘 자고 일어나면 크게 관심을 받게 되는 뉴스가 있는데요. 바로 가상화폐와 비트코인입니다. 연일 최고가를 기록하고 있고 또 특히 미국에서 대선 이후로 트럼프가 승리하면서 그 상승세가 두드러지고 있는데요. 그래서 오늘은 UDC 2024의 키노트 스피커로 참석하고 계신 마이클 케이시를 모시고 가상화폐 그리고 블록체인의 오늘과 앞으로의 방향에 대한 이야기를 한번 들어보도록 하겠습니다. Hello, Mike.
Hello, it's great to be here again.
Yeah, I'm so great to see you, and I hope you remember we had you in 2018, the Seoul Future Conference.
I do remember it was a lot of fun, and it's been too long. I'm really happy to be back in Seoul. It's such a wonderful place.
And I'm also very glad to see you here again at the time when there's so much interest in the cryptocurrency and the Bitcoin in Korea as well.
Yes, it's quite an interesting moment to be here. Just 2 days after, I think, Bitcoin hit 90,000, which is incredible just to be happening right now, for sure.
So could you introduce yourself and what brought you here?
Yeah. So I'm Michael Casey. I have been a journalist for most of my career. I've been very involved in media. So I've been covering as a journalist cryptocurrencies and blockchain since 2013. But I also spent some time at MIT as a researcher at the MIT Digital Currency Initiative. And then I was the chief content officer at Coindesk, which is a leading publication in cryptocurrencies and blockchain, and I ran the consensus conference. But now I have a brand new project called the Decentralized AI Society, which is dealing with the convergence of blockchain and artificial intelligence. So I represent that. I'm the chairman of what we call DAIS, the Decentralized AI Society, and so that's the hat that I'm wearing this time that I'm here in Seoul.
As I mentioned earlier, Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are all rages in nowadays. But let's not forget the very important keyword AI. So the blockchain and AI seem to be quite related, I think. The AI is heavily reliant on those centralized data models like LLM as a big proponent of the decentralization. So how do we begin to integrate AI with the blockchain technology without any sacrificing the privacy?
Exactly. So that's probably the main reason to bring it in, to try to think about how do we manage privacy and control over our data. Yes, public blockchains are public, but we can resolve the privacy with other technologies like zero-knowledge proof. The problem of centralized LLMs is that we don't know what's going into them, right? They're a black box, and that black box can be something potentially quite harmful. So we want to understand what is the AI doing. We're going to have billions of AI agents in the world, and those AI agents are supposed to be representing us and acting on our behavior. So in the future, your agent will buy your clothes, it will make trades for you, it will give health advice, right? That is a relationship of trust that you really have to build. So we want to know what is in that agent? What is the data that has gone into it? And that's where blockchain can be very valuable because we can have the provenance, right? We can see where the data has come and we can know that it's acting with or without the permissions that I give with my data. So I have a very strong belief that Web 2.0 has been very harmful to society because the platforms, the very large social media platforms, use the data that they gathered up from the people and they manipulate people. And the same incentives will exist in the AI age for them to treat us not as customers, but as products that they can interpret into whatever profit making that they deserve. So that is something that needs to change because in the AI age, that same model could be extremely dangerous. So we're advocating for figuring out how can we do models that are not based on the LLM centralized thing. So can we do all that computation, all that training exercise in a more decentralized way? Moving the compute on a parallel basis, doing a variety of things, and also tokenizing, using all the tokens of crypto so that we all collectively own the model rather than it being owned by one platform. There's a variety of ways in which blockchain is extremely valuable for the future of AI.
So as you mentioned, the transparency and the trust is one of the main factors that leads people toward the blockchain and the Bitcoin in first place. However, the industry itself has its rise and falls, which leads to the needs of the regulation as a proposed for the safety and the security as well. So what kind of regulation is needed to protect the ecosystem without undermining the decentralization?
So I think that when we're talking about centralized actors within the blockchain universe. And that's what exchanges are. Exchanges typically are centralized because you need somebody to match the orders and to bring the liquidity in there. So most exchanges are centralized. So if they're centralized, then they need to be regulated because we're dealing with the same trust problem that we have with other things, whether they are banks or platforms. And so I think the regulation of an exchange is a very important thing. It's quite different for a decentralized application, right? That then regulation becomes a problem. So I do think that we are in a better regulated environment than we used to be. Right? Remember in my speech I talked today about Mt. Gox, which was one of the first big blow-ups in the crypto experience, a moment when we really had the trust in the technology challenged, not because of the technology's failure, but because of centralized exchange, Mt. Gox went under. But now we have much better regulated exchanges. Right? Sometimes their regulations are too strong, and there's a debate about whether the regulation in Korea is right or not. But it is much safer for people to use if that's the case. The bigger problem is like when we start to talk about applications that are not centralized, so decentralized exchanges, but also decentralized smart applications and decentralized mechanisms for tracking data provenance, which is going to be very important for the age of AI. If you bring too much regulation in there, then you reintroduce a risk because now there has to be a compliant entity that is the one that is responsible to talking to the regulator, right? So that person or that entity then becomes a weak point because they could become the one, maybe they know all the data about us, right? So I think we need to think about ways to make these two worlds match. And there's a lot of interesting ideas about how do we take information like KYC, know your customer knowledge, so all the identifying information about me so that an exchange or an entity that's being regulated can prove that they know who I am, but then roll that into a mechanism that keeps it obscure from everybody. We can't see it, but we know that we can prove that I am who I am, and that information is now locked into a smart contract. So there are interesting ways now to combine decentralized principles with trust. There's always going to be somebody there that has to have that final trust, but I think we have mechanisms to protect us from the abuse by that person. So I think as we go into the AI age, when we're just going to have truly permissionless, decentralized mechanisms to give people empowerment, we're really going to have to figure out how much more can we allow regulation to extract information and how much can we give that is kept free from that.
And of course, we cannot skip this question. So the Bitcoin has been a steady incline, especially hitting record high after U.S. election,
Yes.
frankly. So as much as Trump, frankly, is a significant backer of the cryptocurrency, how do you see the market future under his presidency?
So I think in the short to medium term, it is going to give a lot more excitement to the development of crypto projects, mainly because it removes a hangover, a risk factor that was existing for the last 4 years under the Securities and Exchange Commission's rather strict rules within the United States, the SEC. There'll be a new head of the SEC, and there will be new legislation that we think is going to be more constructive towards crypto. All of that is very good for crypto. I think that the bigger question for everybody in this space is what does it look like in 4 years' time? So in 4 years' time, the world is going to be very, very different. AI is moving exponentially, right? We're in that time, some people think we will already have super intelligence. I don't think I'm hearing anything from the current government or the candidates, the current government or the Trump government to figure out what to do about that. And so I think that like being favorable towards Bitcoin and crypto is a good thing, but how are we going to enable the development of decentralized solutions for transparency and privacy in the AI age? And is this government ready to embrace that? I don't know. There's a whole debate around whether or not AI should be treated as if it's a weapon. And so if people worry about a conflict with China or a conflict with Russia, there's different policies that could be brought into place as to how you deal with AI in that world. And if those policies are going to be Are they going to be constructive for decentralized AI, so blockchain-based solutions, or are they going to be, very constraining because of, whatever military or other demands emerge? That is a huge question, and nobody in Washington is talking about it.
Not yet.
So I think let's focus on what's coming, right? Less on what was.
Thank you, Mike, for your great sharing, and I really hope to have a continuous this conversation with another event.
Yes, it was a great pleasure to have you. I'm so glad to work with the Speakers Bureau. It's been wonderful to work with you people. Thank you.
네, 오늘은 금융혁신과 글로벌 금융시장에서 경제 분야의 전문가로 활약을 하고 계시는 마이클 케이시 DAIS 의장님을 모시고 가상화폐와 비트코인에 대한 현황 그리고 전망에 대한 이야기를 한번 들어봤습니다. 분산형 AI 생태계 등 혁신적인 변화를 계속 이어가고 있는 가상화폐 시장에서 여러분의 위치를 찾으셨나요? 혹시 아직도 길을 찾지 못하셨다면 마이클 케이시와 함께 하시죠. 저희는 다음에 더 좋은 소식으로 또 찾아오겠습니다. 감사합니다. Thank you.
Goodbye.